So hit it.
Hello and welcome to This Is the Play Sports, the podcast. We're back after a bit of a delay. We've had a lot going on in our lives, though.
We've had a little hiatus, but we're back. That's the important thing, and it is bowl season.
Yeah, we're excited to be talking about the bowl season. I mean, like a lot of exciting things had to happen to get us to where we are in the college football season. Here's something interesting that I learned and was the first to break the news on when it happened. This is the first season ever that Utah State, and BYU have all won 10 games in a year.
It's amazing. It's 30 wins that the folks along the Wasatch Front have been able to enjoy, and I don't think they'd trade it for anything.
No, I don't think so. It's been like a really magical year for college football in the state, and I think these bowl games give a lot to be excited about. But first, before we talk in-state, I think let's jump into our first quarter topic, which is going to be the college football playoff, the big games. Again,
I've said this, I've beat this drum for years, but it should never have been a 4-team playoff. It should have at the minimum been an 8, and I like the talk of the 12. I think you gotta make it bigger than 4 because every year it's 2 SEC teams, so really 2 other teams get to play.
I would just love to have been a fly on the wall during that conversation that the committee had, or the ESPN had, or the powers that be, where they decided 4 was the solution. And I think we talked about this with Austin Horton a couple months ago. It makes no sense when you consider, there are Power 5 conferences, but only 4 get to play for the national championship. That seems insane. So
I think it shows you the power of the SEC. And speaking of the SEC, they got the top ranked team, and it's not Georgia. Surprisingly, it's Alabama, or is it surprising?
I don't know. Honestly, I think this is going to be one of those really weird years where I don't know if there's an elite team in the country, right? Like a runaway favorite to win. I guess Alabama has to be now, the way they dispatched Georgia, but again, they also have a loss on the record this year, so it's impossible to say like who the favorite is. I mean, I think it has to be Alabama. I think it will be Alabama, but it's too bad that there really aren't like any, I guess, juggernauts, or maybe it's not too bad. I don't know. Maybe there's more potential for
Georgia looked to play the role for a long time until they got dismantled in that SEC championship game. They're frustrated by Alabama, but Alabama and Cincinnati, a group of 5 teams sneaking in there and giving hope to the little fellas as far as colleges are concerned. Can Cincinnati put up a fight against Alabama?
No, I don't think so at all. I think this is where we're really going to see like the separation between the group of 5 schools and the Power 5 schools. I think Cincinnati, great little team out of there. What conference are they in? The American Conference or
AAC?
Yeah,
American Athletic Conference.
Gotcha. So I think this is really where we're going to see like the difference in athlete that goes to Alabama as opposed to Cincinnati. I haven't seen what the Vegas lines are going to be yet for that game, and yes, I do like to dabble in that a little bit. But I would imagine Alabama will be an easy cover for that game. I think they'll win by 3 touchdowns at least.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. The other one's very intriguing. I think Michigan and Georgia, that's pretty much a pick'ems in my opinion.
No, I really think so. And I think it's kind of weird how quietly Harbaugh's kind of, put a lot of the questions that have circulated his tenure at Michigan to bed, this season. And if he can pull it off and win 2 big games, and I don't think he can, but if he does, I mean, he's right back in the mix as like one of the considered to be one of the elite coaches in the nation.
Well, let's think about this too. No one thought that he'd win the Big Ten championship and that Michigan would be where they are right now. So I've watched them play on TV a few times, and they're a very talented athletic team. My problem here is Georgia looked like a juggernaut all season long. If Michigan were to beat them, that would be 2 consecutive losses for Georgia. And I don't know if a team that looked that good for 10, 11 weeks of the season is capable of losing twice in a row.
No, I wouldn't think so either. And by the way, to our listeners, that melodious howling you're hearing faintly in the background are the sounds of Mickey and Pluto playing upstairs while we were recording this podcast.
They're getting ready to make their mix picks.
And Pluto picks, yep.
Appear on the website. So So national championship, real quick, Ost, who do you see winning it?
I think it's going to be Alabama over Georgia again. I think they'll have a rematch.
I'm going to go with the winner of the Georgia Michigan game to win it all,
Mm.
and I'm going to go with the Georgia Bulldogs.
All right. Well, we'll see. I do like Uga. Uga's cool.
He is cool.
I have one of my friends met Uga at the Rose Bowl a few years ago. I got a picture with him. I'm really jealous of that. So,
Sweet.
yeah.
Well, I
hey,
hope he had a large milk bone to give him.
I don't think so, but I wish he did too. But anyway, you want to jump into the local flavor?
Yeah, let's go to the second quarter.
Yeah. So let's talk first of all about where the BYU Cougars are headed. They're headed to fabulous, gorgeous Shreveport, Louisiana, to face who are they playing? The UAB Blazers in the Independence Bowl on December 18th at 1:30 p.m. on ABC. We know outside here's the thing. I'll start. The only thing I knew about UAB before we started doing a little bit of research is that they didn't play for a year a couple of years ago. I guess they're now experiencing some sort of golden age in their return to the athletics. They've gone to a few bowl games consecutively, so good for the Blazers, I guess. The dragon on the helmet's cool. I like that.
Well, you got to imagine there's an awful big shadow in the state of Alabama to play underneath, and UAB playing in Conference USA. They've made their own right at the level they play at. They're very competitive and a good little team. However, let's look at some of the scores. This is the team that lost to Rice during the regular season. Georgia, who we talked about a minute ago, beat them 56-7.
Yikes.
And Liberty and Texas San Antonio also beat them. They're a good team, but I have to think if BYU takes this game at all serious, and if it's not just a celebration of a 10-win season, that BYU should win this handily. And I think they're favored right somewhere around a touchdown.
Yeah. And that could be right. I mean, it's always hard to get back to playing when you don't have a conference championship game. You have like an extended break. It's probably going to be about a month since their last game. I don't know when BYU's last game was, but it feels like it's going to feel like at least 3 or 4 weeks. But yeah, I think what's going to really help lift BYU to the win over UAB is going to be the Cougars' speed, especially at the running back position. They have guys like Puka Nacua who can really stretch the field as well. What UAB kind of makes their bacon on, they are a very physical team. They have a couple really solid guys on both sides of the line in the trenches. Their leading rusher is a sophomore. His name's Dwayne McBride. Their leading receiver, which I think this is indicative of the kind of team they are, is their tight end. His name's Garrett Prince, and he leads the team with just 656 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 32 receptions. So to me, that says they're not necessarily like a super explosive team, but they like to just kind of, control the pace, control the tempo, kind of grind it out. And I think in those situations, the faster team usually wins. And so I'm going to go with BYU winning and covering as well.
Yeah, I think BYU is going to win this game handily, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win it by a margin of greater than 2 or 3 touchdowns. McBride, 1,188 yards, averages 6.8 yards per carry. And that's at the line, but BYU also has counters with a strong line.
Sure.
And like you said, I think BYU's line has to be faster because BYU has a very skilled line that
they always have
the nation's elite as far as that's concerned. And so a team that lost to Rice, lost to Liberty, and those, to me, that tells you something that this team,
I think
UAB
it says the Conference USA is pretty crappy. No disrespect to the Roadrunners.
They play at the level
UAB.
They play at, then they do well.
Yeah.
And that, that's what you got to remember about the group of fives is they're not trying to be the next.
They're not trying to crack into the playoffs necessarily.
No,
that would be incredibly rare.
A lot of conferences, know who they are.
Yeah.
And they play who they are. And so UAB is, a good program. They made some inroads a few years ago in basketball, probably more than a few years ago, decades ago. And football, when they shut the program down, there was a lot of dismay and a lot of surprise. And they went and raised a bunch of money and brought the program back. And it's amazing how fast they bounce back to be a bowl team all of a sudden. So
Yeah, I mean, there's talent around them. The guys that don't go to Alabama or any of the SEC schools are still pretty good, I would think. And,
yeah, I mean they've got some talent. It's depth might be the issue there.
yeah.
All right, it's halftime. Time for a drink.
I had a nice juicy Snapple that I was looking forward to. What are you gonna have?
I'm gonna have a Power water.
Wow,
A little power
by Powerade. How is it?
Got me, Mick. I'm ready to go. All right. Let's do it. Second half, us.
Yep.
So my favorite talk show host,
Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel.
He's my second favorite. Conan's always going to be the top dog for me, but yeah, Jimmy's pretty good.
LA Bowl at SoFi Stadium. You had a chance to check out the stadium.
It's unlike any other like sporting venue that I can describe. It's gorgeous. It's like there's tons of glass, but the architecture right there it's in that Inglewood neighborhood, and they've got the NFL West Coast office there as well. Like it looks like it just is like a naturally occurring kind of like stadium that just emerged from the earth. Just the way they built it is really beautiful. It's gorgeous. Utah State is going to really enjoy their time there at the old home of the Chargers and the Rams. I think they kind of have a fun opponent they're playing as well in Oregon State. I think we've heard people, and we've said it ourselves, refer to it as the Gary Anderson Bowl of sorts, right?
It is. So officially, it's the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl at SoFi Stadium, December 18th, 5:30 p.m. on ABC4, pitting Utah State, a surprise Mountain West Conference champions.
Yeah.
10-3 against Oregon State, 7-5. How do you see this one?
I think it's going to be a really fun matchup. It's really going to give Utah State a good gauge of where they are, and I think they have a really decent chance to win. And if they do, it's really going to put them more on the map with fans locally. I think the people I think there are probably a lot of people who didn't realize how good Utah State has been this year. I think a win over a Pac-12 opponent will go, oh, whoa, where have these guys been all year? It really kind of feels like a shame that Utah and BYU have also been very good this year, because it's kind of overshadowed the fact that Utah State's had a remarkable season in their own right. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Utah State matches up. And if they beat Oregon State, who beat Utah, who lost to BYU, then it becomes a fun argument in the state, right?
Yep. And then, BYU, of course, we didn't mention it, but they have wins over both these teams.
True.
2 10-win teams. But Oregon State upset Utah 42-34 back on October 23rd in a best call it a comedy of errors by the Utes in the second half, allowed Oregon State to get back in the game and eventually win it. Does that mean anything?
Maybe. I think, when I see that like Utah was held to just 3 points in the second half, that tells me Oregon State, and I would have to check the stats. This is just purely me guessing, but I'm guessing Oregon State did a terrific job shutting down the run, because that's really been Utah's bread and butter all season. And to me, the fact that Utah didn't only score 3 points second half, again, I'd have to check the stats again, tells me, they were stymied, on the rushing attack. So is that a problem for Utah State? Is that something for them to consider? Maybe, but Utah State really has kind of a fun offense. They're a lot more like air raid heavy. They have what's his name?
Bonner,
and then the receiver, who is very good. And I apologize, I know he listens to the show. That's a joke. And all that. He's leading the nation in receiving in a couple categories. So I don't know. I think they'll be okay. I if I was Utah State, I wouldn't worry too much about the Utah film.
Oregon State's losses include a loss at Purdue, at Washington State, at California, at Colorado, and at Oregon.
Unbeaten at home. Yeah.
And if you think about the loss to Colorado is ugly.
Yep.
Obviously, the loss to Cal, you could argue it was kind of ugly too. The rest of them, but they had 3 first team all Pac-12 players: running back BJ Baylor, offensive lineman Nate Eldridge, and linebacker Avery Roberts. I'm going to go with Utah State just to continue the magical season, because I'm not sold on Oregon State, even though they beat Utah.
I think I'm going to go with you, but let's agree that it'll be a very close game. Can we reach an agreement on that?
That should be, and I believe Oregon State somewhere around a touchdown favorite in that game. So
I'm going to say Utah State wins on a field goal.
Ooh, we're going to hold you to it.
Yeah.
It's time for the fourth quarter, and it's the big one around the state of Utah, the 108th Rose Bowl, January 1st, 5:30 on ABC, pitting the Pac-12 champion Utah Utes 10-3 against Ohio State 10-2. This is what Utah's wanted. They wanted to win a Pac-12 championship. They wanted to go to the Rose Bowl. Everything's come together, and it's interesting. It comes in a season that started off with a 1-2 record.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And tragedy that they had to overcome.
Oh yeah, and I think that almost makes the story better in a way. It would have been really great to see Utah maybe play to their potential all season, and I think had they played to their potential, they very well could be undefeated. I think you could definitely think that wouldn't be a stretch of the imagination. But no, I think the fact that there has been so much adversity just makes it so much more gratifying that they made it to where they are. And as Utah alums, you and I are, and as people who know a lot of the people in the program and really, really appreciate their friendship, gosh, I really want to see them bring it home and win this thing,
Yeah, it would be a nice way to cap the season and nice tribute to the guys they lost along the way, and then the guys that are in the program that plugged along because they could have quit.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't. Now they're facing a quarterback in CJ Stroud. They have not faced a quarterback like him.
They have not. No, I think that'll be the big challenge. I think this is really if I'm Devin Lloyd, it's this has to be my marquee game, in a Utah uniform. This is my last chance to get some good snaps on film before the NFL draft. Devin Lloyd needs to have the game of his life here, and I think he's capable of it.
Well, Stroud, 3,862 passing yards, 38 touchdown passes, and only 5 interceptions. So he's very careful with the football.
Redshirt freshman.
Yeah, it's
incredible.
And then to be a Heisman finalist. They also have a skilled running back in Travion Henderson, who had 1,172 yards, 15 touchdowns. They have 2 1,000-yard receivers. They have they have 3 really talented receivers. 6 offensive linemen were all conference selections, and they look loaded.
That it's going to be a challenge on defense like Utah has not yet seen this season. So,
the Buckeyes are the top-ranked offense in the country in total offense and scoring offense.
That's correct. Yeah.
And it's really I think this is Ohio State's offense against Utah's defense.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see who wins that battle, because on paper, the edge might go to Ohio State. But
I think so. Yeah.
I'm sure Morgan Scalley's been staying up late at night trying to figure out how to counter that. And like you said, when you have a first round talent like Devin Lloyd in the middle of the defense, you got to give Utah credit. And Utah's line always good. And Mika Tafua and the guys are going to apply a lot of pressure up front. And you got to secondary is the one that's going to get challenged.
Exactly. That's where I was going. You got to hope a guy like Clark Phillips, who, originally was recruited by Ohio State, comes into this game with a little extra juice and, gives them that boost. But yeah, I think Ohio's their passing game on paper, just like we've described, looks incredibly potent. I can't think of a comparable opponent Utah's really had this year. I think Ohio State's probably in a class of their own.
I'm amazed by that. The one stat that stands out to me is the 38 TD passes and only 5 interceptions.
Very good. Yes, very good.
38-5 ratio. I'll take that. That's almost video game like.
Yeah, that's hey, you're going to be in the green room for the NFL draft. That's a sure thing. Yeah. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be really challenging. Gosh, this season's been so magical though. I already feel so good about the season. Anything that happens would just be gravy, but man, that's a really loud buzzer. That gravy would be pretty tasty. You know what I mean?
No, Ohio State favored by about a touchdown. At this point, the line's moving a little bit. What do you see happening? I see the game being little bit wider margin than that.
I do too, and I hope this doesn't vilify us with our Utah loving community. I just on paper it feels like Ohio State's going to win this by probably 10, I would say.
Yep, and we'll just as many folks around the state, and every time you talk to someone from the U on the phone, they end the conversation by saying, "Go Utes."
Go Utes. We love the Utes.
And
we hope they win. We hope
we'll share that message
hope
with
they
the
win.
community. But as neutral journalists, I'm not going to say as a neutral journalist what I think, but we'll
see what happens. Best. We'll see what happens. Yeah, it'll be incredibly hard, I think.
All right. Well, we appreciate you joining us for the 4 quarters of fun. Now we're to the point everybody waits for, the parting shots. Aust?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we probably can't do a podcast without mentioning the Utah Jazz. They're one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now. I think we've talked about this a few times, how really their mantra this season is going to be live or die by the three. And right now they are not only living, they are thriving by the three. They've hit more 3-pointers in like a span of 3 or 4 games than any other team in NBA history. I think they hit like 27 3-pointers in a game.
I've been on some ward teams that at least attempted that many 3-pointers.
But you by yourself. Yeah, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the Jazz, I think like the mindset that they've installed going into this, where they're going to shoot half their shots as 3-pointers, seems to be working now. We've seen at other parts of the season that it doesn't work. So it's going to be really fascinating to see how that plays out. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it goes.
And another thing that's kind of getting lost in the shuffle of the 3-point shooting is the double doubles that Rudy Gobert seems to be posting almost every night now.
I have a really hot take for you. He's not going to be considered because I think Rudy Gobert is one of the most disrespected players in the NBA. But I think by the end of the season, if he stays healthy and if the Jazz are a top 3 team in the West, he'll have a very strong argument as an NBA MVP.
I agree. I mean,
it's not going to happen, but I think people are going to have to make that argument against him.
Double-digit scoring, 20-point scoring and double-digit rebounds is hard to overlook. And in the win over Washington the other night, Hassan Whiteside also had
that was a really good
double.
pickup. Yes,
18 points, 14 rebounds, I believe he had in the win over Washington. So, they double doubles out of their 2 big men. That's pretty rare.
It's unbeatable. I don't know. And when the shots are falling on the outside, I don't see that's a perfect basketball game. I don't see how you can beat that. So it's just going to be exciting to see how the Jazz go. What, however, is your parting shot?
My parting shot goes out to the littlest Ute, Britton Covey.
Yeah.
And he announced that he is going to forgo his senior year and enter the NFL draft. Rose Bowl will be his last game. I had the opportunity, I was at the Deseret News, a photographer and I, when he was doing his rehab from his knee injury, and he let us watch him work out and take pictures and see the routine he went through. And he was there all by himself, just pumping iron and doing, things with his leg that looked painful as far as the rehab was concerned. Didn't complain at all. He just went to work and did it. And I think his work ethic was impressive. And he's an impressive young man anyway.
Mm-hmm. Very nice guy.
And leading the nation, I believe, in punt returns this year. He's undersized, so the NFL, may not be a reality, but I think he's going to get a shot because of his speed and his agility and his quickness. And I just hope for the best for the guy. I hope he does get a shot to play in the NFL. And boy, that would sure be fun to watch him return a punt in the NFL. I think that would be cool. One time he confided that, after his football career, he wanted to play for the Running Utes for a season. It sounds like he's going, he's married now and football, and he, that kid will be successful in whatever he does. But good luck to Britton Covey and thanks. And here's to making some more memories in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, 7 years with that program is it's kind of like the joke every time the Utes are on ESPN or ABC. They love talking about how Covey's been there for forever, but I think he's really like reached like a tier, like an echelon in Utah lore where he's going to be remembered, just as fondly as guys like Morgan Scally in his playing days, or Eric Weddle or Chase Hansen. I think you can definitely, or Tom Hackett. I got to mention Tom Hackett too. I think we can definitely say that Britton's going to be in that group of people who really like appreciate everything he did for the program.
Yep, and Devin Lloyd is another guy on this year's team that's done some things. And the list goes on as Utah has made this successful job. I remember when Kyle Whittingham told me that when they joined the Pac-12, it was like trying to jump the Grand Canyon going from the Mountain West to the Pac-12. Well, I think they grabbed a ledge and they pulled themselves up, and now they're standing on top of it. And winning the Pac-12 is a huge accomplishment for this program, especially with the year they've had. So,
I think it might be one of the best sports stories in state history, to tell you the truth.
Yep, it's a good one. Well, before we sign off, we want to thank my wife, Kirsten, for stepping in as the engineer on this fine program.
She might be doing that more and more. Sammy, I don't know. Should we say it? Anyway, we'll say it. Who cares? Yeah. Sammy got engaged last week, so we're happy for her. Excited for that. Great guy named Nick. So Sammy might be doing this less and less, and so we appreciate Mother stepping in to push the 2 or 3 buttons required for this. So.
Yep, we appreciate it, and we wish Sammy and Nick nothing but the best. And
let's play the hits. Let's leave you with "'Tis the Season."
A favorite.
Just turn that down a little. Yeah. Oh man, there we go. Here's a fun fact for our listeners. You have maintained that if anybody tells me that this is not the best Christmas song ever, I'm to fight them. Is that true?
Absolutely. It's hand-to-hand combat. It's the best Christmas song. Burl Ives crooned this song many years ago, and it's a great one. Folks, thanks for listening. Spread the word to your friends that you can listen to the podcast wherever fine podcasts are obtained, and we'll talk to you next time.
Yep. See you later.